Right now, as a 3D artist, whether you are using Blender, Max or Maya, you might be complaining about cloth simulation tools that come with your software of choice. But the truth is, even what we take for granted, people at the highest levels spend decades to reach. And one of the turning points is when Pixar pushed cloth animation further, which created a wave of progress. So follow me to show you how we got here in cloth simulation, and see how this animation nightmare was solved. The first days of 3D cloth simulation were honestly kinda chaotic and experimental too. Back in the late 1980s and 90s, most 3D characters didn't even have properly simulated clothes, not yet. 3D artists usually model clothes directly on the character, like a rigid armor, because computers simply weren't powerful enough to calculate realistic fabric movement in real time. Early researchers and labs were trying to figure out how to make digital cloth bend, wrinkle, stretch, and collide naturally, without computers exploding from calculations. One of the biggest problems was that cloth was surprisingly complicated. A shirt doesn't just move in one direction. Every tiny part of the fabric reacts to gravity, wind, motion, collision, folds, and tension at the same time. You see, early simulations looked very stiff or rubbery because the math and hardware were still very primitive. Sometimes clothes would clip through characters, vibrate uncontrollably, or completely explode into random polygons, especially during animation. And animators back then joked that cloth simulation had a mind of its own. During the 1990s, companies using software like Softimage, Alias Power Animator, and early proprietary studio tools started experimenting more seriously, especially with cloth systems for film. Big studios like Pixar, Industrial Light and Magic, and PDI were pushing computer animation technology forward. But even then, cloth simulation was still considered super advanced and really expensive. But a huge turning point happened because audiences started expecting more realistic characters in movies, especially during the late 90s. And once films like Toy Story and Jurassic Park proved that 3D animation could handle believable motion and creatures, studios realized that stiff cloth animation suddenly looked fake compared to everything else. And this pushed research into better physics systems for fabric, hair, and soft body simulation. What's funny is that in early cloth simulation, artists often had to cheat constantly. I mean, even if the simulation worked, they still manually fixed folds, collisions, and weird stretching frame by frame. So despite being called simulation, there was still a lot of traditional manual animation, which was hidden underneath. That's why cloth 3Ds became highly respected specialists in VFX and animation studios, because getting a cape or dress to behave properly was considered almost black magic, especially in the early CGI era, but everything was about to change. One of the biggest breakthroughs in cloth simulation was when researchers realized they couldn't break force realism with tiny calculations forever. You see, early cloth systems in the 90s needed super tiny simulation steps, or the fabric would completely freak out and explode across the screen. Then in 1998, researchers David Baraff and Andrew Whitkin introduced a famous system which was called large steps in cloth simulation, which allowed cloth to stay stable even with much bigger simulation steps. And this was huge, because suddenly simulations became much more faster and more practical for movies and animations. Another major breakthrough was moving away from simple rubber sheet cloth models into more physically accurate fabric behavior. Here's the thing, early cloth often behaved like sketchy elastic because the math was too simple. Researchers started developing better systems for bending, folding, wrinkling, and preserving fabric shapes, so silk, denim, leather, and cotton could all behave differently. And that's when cloth started looking less like a floating blanket and more like real clothing. Collision detection was another supermassive nightmare that slowly got solved over time. Each cloth would constantly clip through characters, the cloth itself, and other objects. Capes went through bodies, sleeves collapsed into arms, dresses tangled into impossible knots, and so on and so forth. Later breakthroughs introduced much faster collision systems and self-collision handling, where the cloth could actually understand the fabric shouldn't pass through itself. This alone made modern clothing simulations possible. Then came Pixar, and the movie industry pushing everything even further. You see, researchers like Andrew Whitkin, David Barev, and Michael Cass developed physically based cloth systems which were used in films, and eventually won Academy Awards for it. Their work helped movies achieve believable clothing motion, especially in projects for Pixar films during the 90s and 2000s, and suddenly people started seeing jackets, dresses, curtains and capes moving in ways that actually felt natural. Game developers also created their own breakthroughs later, because realistic movie quality cloth was still too heavy for real-time performance, so game developers started using tricks like position-based dynamics. So instead of solving insanely expensive physics simulations, these systems used faster constraint-based approximations that looked believable enough while running at playable frame rates. That's why modern game engines can simulate cloaks, flags, hair, and clothing during gameplay. And honestly, GPUs changed everything too. Once cloth simulation started running on GPUs instead of only CPUs, the amount of detail actually exploded. So simulations that once took hours could now happen interactively in software like Marvelous Designer, Houdini, Blender, Maya, and Cloth, in addition to different game engines. And today, cloth simulation is so advanced that we can create everything using different software. What's interesting is that every breakthrough in cloth simulation slowly turned into actual tools inside different 3D software. At first, major 3D programs barely had cloth systems. You would maybe get some simple soft body effects that made a plane wobble like jelly. But once the math behind simulation became more stable in the late 90s and early 2000s, software developers started building dedicated cloth systems directly into major 3D software. For example, Maya introduced one of the famous systems ever, called nCloth. So instead of creating fabric like randomly deforming geometry, Maya used the nucleus solver, which handled gravity, collisions, stretching, wrinkles, and self-collision in a much more stable way. And 3D artists could paint different fabric properties into clothes like stiffness, thickness, bending resistance, and friction. So subtly as you can imagine, you could make silk behave differently from leather or denim. Another huge implementation was collision handling. Early cloth constantly clipped through characters, but different 3D software started adding smarter collision systems and self-collision controls. In Maya nCloth, for example, you even got special controls for trapped cloth situations, collision thickness visualization, and layered clothing interactions. If you think about it, these features actually sound normal today, but back then they were massive breakthroughs because they stopped simulations from completely exploding every few seconds. Then you had specialized tools like Marvelous Designer, which basically changed digital cloth simulation forever. So instead of only simulating polygonal meshes, Marvelous Designer approached clothing like real fashion design. An artist worked with actual 2D sewing patterns, also stitched garments together, and let physics simulate how fabric dripped onto characters. That's why Marvelous Designer became huge in games, films, and digital fashion too, because it could produce insanely natural folds and wrinkles much faster than older workflows. Meanwhile, software like Houdini pushed cloth simulation into the procedural world. Systems like Vellum made cloth much faster and much more controllable, using modern constraint-based solvers like position-based dynamic, which means instead of manually tweaking every simulation, you could build reusable procedural networks for capes, distractions, soft bodies, balloons, ropes, and layered clothing, and this became super important for big VFX pipelines. Blender also evolved over time. Early Blender cloth simulation was considered pretty limited and unusable compared to software like Maya, but over the years, Blender added better collision systems, self-collision, sewing springs, pressure collisions, pressure simulation, and more stable solvers. Also, on the other hand, the open source community kept improving it little by little, and GPU acceleration became a major focus because cloth simulations were notoriously slow on CPUs alone. And honestly, one of the biggest changes wasn't just realism, it was the workflow itself. You see, the older cloth simulations were really technical and required tons of manual fixing. Modern software, on the other hand, started adding caching systems like resolution proxy simulations, GPU acceleration, layered garments, viewport playback, and real-time previews. So cloth simulation slowly transformed from a terrifying, specialist-only feature into something any 3D artist, indie developer, fashion designer, or even hobbyist could use on a daily basis. And there you have it, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe to this channel to receive more videos like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.